Hey everyone, it's Brian. Today we are going to be talking about the archery equipment that I use. Just about everything that I use is homemade, and I tend to do stuff more in a traditional style. I've gotten questions about this on some of my other videos, and someone specifically requested that I do the video on my archery equipment, and so here it is. Now, with the exception of really pretty much one thing, everything I have is homemade. I try to do this as cheaply as possible because I am on a limited budget. Some of it's made out of leather scraps, but probably the most expensive thing to make that I own is the quiver that I have on right now. And the main reason for that is that leather is not cheap. Now this is made out of 5-ounce vegetable tan cowhide. It's unstained. I just treated this with snow seal, and then over time just being out in the sun has kind of darkened it. I use the pattern from Tandy Leather and their archery pack to make this quiver, and it's a nice small quiver. I like it for target shooting and hunting through the woods. It doesn't hold a ton of arrows. I've put as many as 15 in here and it worked just fine. The only problem is if you are making this directly off the instructions like I did the first time, it won't fit. I think it's designed for a youth quiver. If you see right here on the strap, you'll notice that I had to splice an extra piece of strap in. If I had left it the way it was originally designed, then that is all the strap I would have had. And there's no way I can get that around my torso. So I had to add another foot, maybe about 15 inches worth of strap there. The other thing I changed is instead of just sewing the strap directly in here at the bottom, I put it in with a rivet so that it would pivot. That way, as I'm moving, I think it adds a little bit more flexibility and it makes it quieter. You don't get the squeaking of this piece of leather, so I like that. I lined the top with wool, just from an old blanket. I sewed the side up here, dropped it down in there and punched holes around there, and then just laced a piece of leather lacing around the top to hold it in place. Makes the top a little bit quieter and it dresses up the top. I also punched holes here and here. You can see the laces hanging. And I use those laces when I'm in the woods to hang a blanket or a tarp on, depending on, if I'm planning on staying overnight, I'll hang a blanket off of that. If I'm just going out for a day trip, I like to keep a tarp on there just so I have one handy. And also when I'm using this for a costume, I'll typically hang the tarp on there just because it adds an extra accessory. On the shoulder strap here, I have an archer's tassel hanging. This is also homemade, it's really easy to make. This is what I use when I'm either doing a target shoot or I'm stump shooting. If I get dirt on my arrows, I drag them through that tassel to clean them off. One of the first things I made was this shooting glove. You can see it just has a snap closure here. This is made completely out of scrap pieces of leather that I had sitting around. I need to make a new one at some point, or at least repair this one because the stitching's starting to come undone here. But I've had this for about 5 years and it works great. The release is very smooth. The leather is thin enough to where I can really feel the string well, but it's thick enough to where it protects my fingers, and it's very slick. So when I do release, it is very smooth. I like it a lot. It's very simple. It's very basic. The first handguard that I made, or arm guard rather, that I made was this one here. And I just took a piece of leather, cut it out, and then attached these tabs all along and made loops so that the string runs through it. And I'll slide this on my arm right quick to give you some contrast and kind of give you an idea how this fits. You just work your way down your arm, pulling the string tight, like that. And that's the way it would, obviously this would be on the back of your arm, not the front of your arm, but I'm doing it this way because it's easier for me to do that and have y'all see it. But you lace it down there, and then you wrap this around and tuck it in. Now the leather on here grips that paracord very well and keeps it from coming loose while you're shooting. And I like this, it's nice and light. I use it a lot when I'm shooting, especially mainly if I'm shooting a bow that has an arrow shelf. If I'm shooting a bow that does not have an arrow shelf, then I use the oldest piece of archery equipment that I own. I bought this when I was a kid. I guess it would have been back in the late 80s. I haven't seen anything like it in a long time. But it is a old Realtree Gauntlet. It's got the deerskin leather glove to protect the hand, which is why I use it when I'm shooting off the knuckle. And then that velcros up and you've got a really nice bracer pad here. Now when I'm shooting in my archery tournaments and stuff and I'm shooting off the knuckle, I'll love to use this. One, because it's comfortable all one piece, it's easy to get on and off. But also here, this flap, I'll stick my scorecard and my pencil up inside that flap and it keeps it handy out of the way but close at hand, so after I finish shooting I can just pull that out, I can score my round and I can just keep going. Now when I'm using my archery getup in costume, I normally use this. Now I made this one so that it doubles as an archery bracer on this side, but also gives you a little bit of armor protection on the back of your arm here. The hinge here is just a piece of leather, you might or might not be able to see that, running down the inside and then stitched through. It's very simple, it's very basic. Once I cut the pieces out, I wet formed it around my arm. It fits like that. And then you just lace it up, which I'm not going to do right now. But that's the archery bracer. This is made out of the same 5-ounce vegetable tan leather that I used for the quiver. And it also has spent a lot of time out in the sun, so it's nice and dark, and it's got sweat stain stuff and all that good stuff on it. Alright. That is the equipment that I use when I'm actually out shooting. Now I use a couple of different types of arrows. I have one of each of those in my quiver right now. I have the duct tape arrows, which everybody's seen. I've been slowly refining these as I go. I went with a much lower profile on this last set that I made to improve my arrow flight. I'm trying to get my arrows more tuned to my specific bows so that the fletchings aren't quite as necessary. These are made out of red oak dowel rods. The only bought part of this is as far as archery equipment, is the field points that you see on the tips. The other type of fletching that I use is, this is actually artificial fur. It's wrapped in a spiral around the arrow and then tied at the ends. It's glued to the shaft. This acts as a facsimile of feathers. It's not quite a full effect of like a flu arrow. If the fur was longer, it would probably give me that effect. But it gives me less deflection around the bow than the duct tape, which acts like a plastic vein and really kind of tends to kick the arrow base around a little bit. They both fly really well, and I've been really happy with them. And total investment, money-wise, in each of these arrows is about $250. So it's nice to have good, cheap arrows that I don't worry about them breaking. And also, since they're made out of oak, they really don't break very much. Lastly, this is my most recent bow project that I've worked on. I watched the videos at the Backyard Bowyers channel on making PVC bows, and I really enjoyed the idea, because now I can make a good bow like this that has about a 56 pound draw weight, and I spent about $4 on it. It's got maple wood seas on the tip, and it's made out of 1-inch PVC pipe. And it's a nice, smooth shooting one. I shot my last tournament with it, and it did really well. So that is my archery equipment. If you have any questions, feel free to post comments. As always, if you have any suggestions for things you'd want to see based on the stuff I've done, feel free to put something up there, and I'll try to take care of it. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.